Hello there, welcome back to the channel and back to the Performance Centre here at Howley Hall Golf Club in Leeds. And today, as you've seen by the title of this video, we are going to be taking a look at golf balls, following some of the other videos that we've done recently. So earlier on in the year, we did a driver video where we swung a driver at various different speeds to see how far you can hit a driver. Last week we had a video about 7-irons doing the same thing. So we went all the way from kind of your senior golfer, maybe lady golfer swing speed, all the way up to kind of tour level, and saw the sort of distances you should be expecting with both driver and 7-iron. In the driver video, we even looked at things like different angles of attack and different kind of swing paths and things like that, and how that would affect how far the ball went, how far it carried, how far it would run. With 7-iron, it's a little bit more just looking at the speeds. We used a 34-degree 7-iron and tested that. So you can see those on the channel right now. Go back and have a look at those. And particularly last week's about 7-irons. It's fairly divisive. When you ask someone how far they hit a 7-iron, you can get 3 guys that swing at the same speed and tell you 3 very different answers, and they can range 30 yards apart. So we thought, having looked at some of the comments that you guys put in there on some of these videos, about how golf ball affects some of the performance, so we'd do a bit of a test. So what I've done today is I've just gone into the shop. I've not picked any brand particularly for any reason, but TaylorMade was the one I've chosen for this video. So I have 4 different TaylorMade golf balls to look at today, kind of going through the price range that they have. So all the way from Distance to Speed Soft, Tour Response, and then obviously the TP5, their tour level golf ball that they have. So what I'm going to do today is hit shots with a lob wedge. So I'm going to hit some 50-yard pitch shots with each of these golf balls. I'm then going to hit some 7-irons at various speeds. So I'm going to try and swing one at kind of a lower end, maybe senior golfer swing speed, some at kind of your average golfer swing speed, and then some at like tour level swing speed with both 7-iron and driver, and show how the balls kind of differ in terms of their performance when you get to that level. Because many questions that I get asked as a club professional when players come into the golf shop: what golf ball should I use? And it really depends on quite a lot of factors and what you look for in a golf ball. Generally, it's something that you feel comfortable with in terms of the price you're going to pay for it, in terms of how it feels and how you feel like it works on the golf course. And also sort of, you may have an affinity to a brand as well, whether it be TaylorMade or Titleist or Srixon or anyone that Wilson we do lots of golf balls with as well. So any brands that you kind of have an affinity with and that you want to use. There's also that kind of pull from what the guys on tour are using. Should I be using the same golf ball that those guys are using out there week in, week out when we watch the PGA Tour, DP World Tour, Live, whatever your persuasion? And the answer in many cases is probably not. But we're going to show you why today. Like I say, golf balls, price is a major kind of thing. So you'll see lots of people buying your, I mean, Amazon have just bought a golf ball out now, which we are going to do some testing on in a few weeks' time. You've got Kirkland Signature, which is obviously very popular and cheaper end from Costco. There are lots of golf balls out there that kind of go direct to consumer as well, like your Vice type golf balls and stuff like that. And do they perform as well as some of the golf balls we're going to test today? Well, hopefully we'll find that out in the future. I haven't actually tested any of those yet, but I really want to, and kind of put them up against these. And but like I say, the reason that these brands exist has a lot to do with price, and it's to do with what you can afford to spend on a dozen golf balls. So to start with, we have the Distance from TaylorMade, right? So this is around the kind of 20 to 22 pounds mark here in the UK for a dozen balls. We've got some technology in here as well. So let's have a look at what TaylorMade say about this golf ball. So it's 77 compression, it feels really soft. Driver speed, it's saying it's their maximum driver speed of any golf ball that they have in their range. It launches quite mid, the wedge spin is mid, and the flight is low to medium, right? So this is obviously a golf ball that is quite basic in terms of its construction, really, but it's going to appeal to many of you for price. Feel, obviously it's quite soft, it's got this react speed core as well for low driver spin, and also quite low flight. So we've got a new dimple pattern in here as well, which TaylorMade introduced this year. And we've obviously got, which is quite popular on a lot of golf balls, the alignment aid on it as well, which we can sort of see on the side of the golf ball here, if I put it a bit closer to the camera. So you can see we've got a nice little alignment tool there, almost like a cross kind of effect, with a thicker line in the middle to line up your putts, and the thinner one to help you with the putter face as well. So there's a bit of technology in there, not only inside the ball, but some of the visual and alignment technology in there as well. So quite good for a ball of this price. The next ball we're going to test, it's Speed Soft. Okay, so we've moved up a little bit in price towards that kind of £30 a dozen mark now. Anywhere, I mean, you can pick them up anywhere between 25 and £30 depending on where you shop online. We've obviously got the plain version of Speed Soft, which I have right here, but also the ink, which has been really popular, to be honest. We've sold loads of them in the shop. Why would you choose this ball? Well, this is the softest ball that TaylorMade have in their range. So it's sub 50 compression. It's feeling really soft in terms of driver speed. We've got a decent amount in there as well. It launches mid to high wedge spin, so it'll be interesting when we test that to see whether that happens. And this has got an ionomer cover, so it will have that slightly better feel than the distance ball will, so much softer, particularly when you putt with it. I mean, that's not something we're going to test today, but putting, I would suggest, is something that you probably want to test with a lot of these types of golf balls. I certainly find, and it may be a follow-up video that we do, I certainly find when I'm testing new golf balls, how they feel off the putter really helps me choose one ball over another when I can't really tell the performance on the long game stuff. So for instance, I've been using TP5X this season, just purely because I prefer the feel of it off the putter face. I feel like I can judge the distance slightly better because of the feedback and the sound it makes and how quickly it comes off the putter face. It can be a very, very personal thing. Someone may pick TP5 and find that it does feel that little bit softer and sounds a little bit softer, and therefore they can, you know, judge their putts a little bit better and maybe chip a little bit more effectively with it. I don't know, but many of you out there will have different kind of opinions and different things you look for on the feel of a golf ball. But this one should feel extremely soft, should spin nicely with the wedges, and hopefully still have a decent bit of distance with the driver. Then we move on to the Tour Response golf ball. The one I've got is the Tour Response Stripe, so I've got it in the kind of green color here, but a box of blue too, so lots of different colors available, which again makes it slightly more popular. That kind of alignment story that this has on there as well kind of adds to the popularity of this ball. It's again going to feel nice and soft, so 3-layer golf ball this time, decent distance, ball speed should be pretty quick with this as well. So this is kind of your step below tour level really when we're talking about golf balls in the TaylorMade lineup. In terms of flight, it should be slightly higher than some of the others that we've tried. Very high wedge spin, and the feel very, very soft and durable as well. And again, we've now got a golf ball that kind of in every kind of way is very close to quite a tour level golf ball. We've obviously got 2 less layers than TP5, which we'll talk about in a minute, but certainly that kind of feel, and you know what I mean, when you actually feel the cover of a golf ball, you can tell a kind of what's perceived as a better quality one from a poorer quality one. I think the cover is the biggest kind of telltale really when you hold these golf balls, particularly when we compare it to, if I can find the distance ball again, the cover is certainly much firmer in the distance one than with this one. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see how they perform too. And lastly, TP5 and TP5X. So we're going to try those today as well. This is obviously tour level ball, 5 layers. We know all about these because they're being used by some of the best players in the world. Rory McIlroy, Tommy Fleetwood, to name just a few. So in terms of performance, we should see really good ball speed, distance, launch. It really should perform well in every single area. Wedge spin is kind of right up there as well. Compression, a little bit firmer compression than some of the other golf balls that we'll have tested, but that's because they're being hit harder generally. So like I say, tour level golf ball, higher swing speeds, so we should see probably better performance when we get into those higher speeds. But will it perform as well when we're at low speed? Well, we'll see. So what we're going to do now is hit some shots on the Trackman. I'm going to hit some wedge shots, some 7-irons, some drivers with each of these 4 golf balls and see exactly how they perform here, and then we'll talk through some of the differences at the end. So I'm going to start off with the distance. Okay, so I've got my 60-degree wedge. I'm going to hit a few pitch shots, which you can see I've hit a couple already. The one thing that's I hit a lot of golf balls in here with all my golf clubs, as you'll have seen through many of the videos that we do. What I have noticed of the few that I've hit so far is how high this ball launches straight off the face. It's literally higher than anything I've seen. The first one, I actually hit the black bit above the screen with a 50-yard pitch shot. I just could not believe how high it popped off the mat to start with. So I'm going to hit a couple more and see how it performs. Straight away, yeah, it's right up there. I think as we get going through the video and you see me hit more shots, I think when we get towards the tour golf ball, you're going to see that where it hits the screen come down quite significantly, really. And I guess for many of you who struggle to get the ball in the air, that's a great thing. You want a golf ball that's going to get in the air quickly. We're going to look at some of the spin numbers, but for me, it seems to launch quite high and not really spin as much as I was expecting it to. So these are very early figures, but in terms of the feel, it doesn't feel too bad off the face. It does feel quite nice and soft. Doesn't feel anywhere near the same as a tour level golf ball. It does feel slightly firmer off the cover. I think you're going to feel that more at this lower speed, to be honest. So we'll hit a few more. But yeah, this kind of 50, 60 yard pitch shot that I'm hitting here, again, it launches super high. And in terms of the spin, maybe not as high as I was expecting. So yeah, that's distance straight away. So we're gonna hit some with each of these golf balls now. I'll probably hit all the pitch shots to start with, then all the 7-irons, then all the drivers, so we can kind of chat through it and then look at the numbers at the end. So we'll move now onto that speed soft golf ball and see exactly how that performs too. So I've now hit a few shots with speed soft as well. It's still launching pretty high. Spin seems to be quite similar, if not a little bit more. But in terms of feel, I can't really tell too much difference at this speed between this and the distance one, really. Again, it feels okay. It doesn't feel bad at all. And many of you out there that won't have hit some of these kind of lower price point golf balls for a while would kind of automatically think they're going to feel really firm. And to be honest, they don't. They feel pretty good. I think the kind of premium balls have kind of got a bit firmer over the years, and that sort of feel and kind of, you know, from the days of Ballata, obviously, where they felt like putty, to now, they're quite close, really, in terms of the feel with these golf balls. Obviously, this is lower compression, so we should kind of feel like it's much, much softer. I don't know, but it doesn't seem to feel that way. And obviously we're told it's got a very soft cover on it as well. So yeah, I would imagine as we get through these golf balls with this pitch shot, we're going to get that bit more of a clicky sort of feel that we kind of associate with that tour level golf ball. But we'll move on to Tour Response. So the Tour Response is a really popular golf ball, one many of you will probably already use. Obviously the alignment that we've spoken about is really good on the top of it. It comes in many different colours, which might appeal to you depending on which sports teams you follow, etc. But it's also quite close in terms of its feel and construction to the TP5. It's probably as close as you're going to get anyway in the TaylorMade range. So let's hit a few and see how it performs. You can see straight away, look how much lower that's hit the screen. It's hit it about here, whereas those other ones are kind of right towards the top. So the distance and the speed soft have both kind of hit very, very high up the screen there. This we can see it's flighted in a bit more. The spin is that little bit higher, which is exactly what I was expecting to see with these golf balls that get into that kind of more towards that tour level kind of performance. Yeah, again, drives it in nice and low. And the spin, spin's great. So it's actually a hell of a lot more than what we were seeing with both the distance and the speed soft. So yeah, very, very impressive when it comes to basically what I'd look for, really. I want it to launch low and spin loads, really, and that's kind of what we're seeing with those shots I've hit so far. Right, I'm going to hit a load more with this, and then we'll move on to TP5. So low, really, really good. So now the TP5 range, or TP5x, is the one that I've got here. So like I say, I wanted to use the golf ball that I use myself. And yeah, we can see lower flight, much more driven in there. And again, spin really, really good. That's the highest spin that we've got so far on any shot that we've hit. So that's very, very good. Like I say, the feel in the golf balls isn't too dissimilar but you can just see how much more driven the flight is, and I can see on the Trackman that the spin's good as well. So, right, that's our pitching that we've done. Let's move on now to 7-irons and see whether there's a big difference there. So we're going to start again with distance, okay? I'm going to hit a few shots with 7-iron with this distance ball. Remember, this launched super high with the wedge. Yeah, it's pretty normal flight, I think, with that. Let's see how it goes. Yeah, it felt good, actually, off the face. It feels much softer, I would say, than my TP5X does that I normally use, but I mean, in terms of the, you can see there with the numbers, 6,400 just over with the spin, and 176, 182. That's pretty much what I'd expect, to be honest, with a good strike with my TP5X. Again, that felt quite good. Maybe not quite as, yeah, it's up there, isn't it? So, yeah, good. I mean, in terms of the numbers that we're seeing here, they stack up quite well, I would say. Certainly, you know, you can hear the surprise in my voice, because I thought after those pitch shots, this was going to be awful. But you can see there, it's not bad at all, to be honest. It actually feels quite good, and the numbers we're getting are decent as well. So now, speed soft. Again, I couldn't really split the two of these when we were hitting shots with the distance, with the lob wedge, sorry, and this and the distance felt very, very similar. So let's see how it performs with the 7-iron. Does feel slightly firmer when you're hitting it like that. Like I say, couldn't tell that difference with the wedge when I was hitting it, but certainly can feel a little bit of difference there when hitting the 7-iron. Again, similar. Didn't quite strike that as well, but it's still around the 170 mark. Just got it a bit out the toe, that one, but again, it's okay. Ball speed's okay. Height's good. Yeah, nothing wrong with it really. Maybe a little higher on the spin, but I think that was more the strike than anything. Right, let's move on to tour response. So now with this, I'm expecting to start to get that feel that I would associate with a premium level golf ball, yeah? So something that is gonna feel a little bit more normal to me and compared to the golf balls I would normally use. Yeah, it certainly feels firmer, definitely firmer. I mean, that has gone like a rocket off the face, that one. I mean, that was a decent swing, but I have absolutely nailed it. The spins really dropped down, ball speeds jumped up. My speed got a bit quicker there as well, I don't know why, but let's try a few more. Yeah, again, feels really decent off the face. The distance is very, very good. The spin is pretty decent too. You know, we're starting to see kind of ball speed. You know, it has jumped up with those last two golf balls we've used. It's got a little bit higher. Distance, like the first one I hit with this, has just gone like a bullet. So, like I say, we'll hit a few more and see whether that carries on. And then we'll move on to TP5X and just see what the numbers are like with that too. But this seems pretty quick. So our TP5X, like I say, the ball that I use day in, day out anyway, and I would expect the numbers to be very similar to what we're seeing with all the others, to be honest. I don't think it's going to be too different. Yeah, again, feels firm off the face, certainly much firmer than what we were seeing with distance and speed soft. Numbers pretty much what I would expect. I didn't quite strike that out the middle of the face, but it's still, that's the average I would hit it. You know, 175 with the 7-iron is pretty normal. I'm now going to hit some shots at 65 miles an hour with a 7-iron, which is kind of your lower end swing speed. If you've looked at some of those videos we've already done, you'll see how I hit a 7-iron at that speed before. So I'm going to use all these golf balls that we've just been trying and see if there's any difference when we're swinging it at that speed. I'm then going to add a little bit more speed to it, so around the 75 miles an hour mark, which is where most of you are probably going to sit. And then we've obviously already got the numbers that I've got from my swing speed. So we're going to then have a bit of a comparison about how these balls perform. We've already seen that kind of at the swing speed I'm hitting it, there wasn't really a massive difference, to be honest. Are we going to see a huge one though when we change speed, when we go down in speed a little bit? Potentially, who knows? Let's hit some. So we're going to start off, like I say, at 65 miles an hour and with the Distance golf ball. So yeah, straight away, 65.5 miles an hour, that one. 5,200 RPM spin. It's landed at 107 and gone 122. So that's very similar to the kind of stuff we were seeing when I did the video last week when we looked at those different club head speeds. It's pretty much bang on where I'd expect it to be. Right, so I'm going to hit some more with this, then I'm going to hit some with each one of the golf balls. You don't need to see me do all that. And then we're going to turn the speed up a little bit. So let me hit a few. I'm now going to repeat that process with driver. So I'm going to try swing at 80 miles an hour, 90 miles an hour, then my normal driver speed with all 4 of these golf balls, and then we'll have a bit of a look at the data at the end. So let me start off 80 miles an hour with a driver with the Distance. Pretty straight. Right, let's hit a load ball. I've now managed to hit shots with driver at all those 3 different speeds. We're going to have a bit of a look at the numbers in a second. I mean, that took some doing, to be honest, to try and hit 5 or 6 good swings at those speeds and also get those numbers and, you know, try and do that then with a bit more speed, and then normal speed's fine, obviously, but trying to swing a driver at well, I tried to do it at 80, actually it was near 85 really when you see the numbers in a second. It was actually quite difficult to do. So obviously there are going to be some nuances in my technique which are different to some of yours. I've noticed at slower speeds I tend to hit down on the driver a little bit, which I don't normally do during a full swing, so we're probably going to see that in the data reflected a little bit, which will obviously have an impact on some of these numbers, but it will still give us a good look at what each of these golf balls does at those speeds. It's quite difficult to then compare one speed to another because of the things I've just mentioned, those sort of variables. You know, I'm not a robot, I'm not going to swing it the same every time, but we can get a good look at how they perform. Right, let's head over to the numbers and take a look. As I alluded to before, we've collected a hell of a lot of data there, right? So apologies that this has taken such a long time. Obviously I've tried to speed through the hitting because you don't want to see me just hitting shots all the time. So we've tried to get to the all-important data as quickly as possible, and hopefully we can take something away from all of the balls I've just hit. So let's look at the wedges to start with, all right? So, you know, there is quite a big difference here between the sort of lower price point golf balls and the tour level ones, particularly for me in the amount of spin, right? So you can see those in terms of the actual height as well. Not only do they launch that a little bit higher, but the actual peak height is significantly higher as well, at 40 and 39 feet for the two, the Distance and the Speed Soft, versus just over 30 feet. So it's about 10 feet difference in height, so 7 to 10 feet looking at those numbers there. But the spin, I mean, there's hardly any coming out of those sort of lower compression Distance balls, if you like. So we've got the Distance and the Speed Soft. We're not getting any spin, right? So whilst, yes, it launches higher, spins less, so that's probably going to make it stop okay. If you want a ball that is going to stop a lot when you're chipping greenside or you're hitting, I mean, reminder, these were sort of 50, 60 yard pitch shots really, so they're not massively long. They're those kind of partial half swings that you're going to hit a lot of when you're out on the golf course. You can see that the Tour Response and the TP5X spin considerably more, so you're going to get a lot more control. I also love the fact that they're much lower flight, yeah, because I'm used to that sort of wedge shot that kind of flights in and stops and spins a little bit faster, and you can see that certainly happening here with those two. So straight away there's a stark difference in how much spin and control you are going to get, and it seems here that kind of the higher price point golf balls win massively on that. Right, let's move into the 7-iron. So we'll start with me just hitting a normal 7-iron, right? So we saw those as I was hitting them, and look at these golf balls here. So I'm swinging it between 92 to 95 miles an hour here with a 7-iron, and we can see, really, is there much of a difference? Absolutely not. In fact, the total distance, the average, is exactly the same with all 4 golf balls. There's no real difference. The ball speed ever so slightly faster with TP5X, and we're getting a bit more spin with that. But the others perform really, really nicely. So at my swing speed, I can't really see any difference between these golf balls. There's none whatsoever from the test that I've done here. But what about when we start swinging it slower? Okay, so if we go into that 65 miles an hour swing speed that we did here, we can see I've averaged just over that, so 66-ish with them all. What can we see with these numbers? Well, in terms of spin, we can see they're negligible. They're similar. TP5X, again, just spins ever so slightly more. Tour response, for some reason, we're just getting a bit more total distance out of that, and a little bit more carry too, at 116 yards, 115 with the distance. So both of those perform nicely. I mean, is there a massive difference there? I suppose you could average 6 yards carry is good with tour response. So we can see down at that speed, we're probably getting a little bit more. In terms of the height, it was the highest flight as well in tour response. So you know, potentially that's something to look at. We're getting a bit more launch there, because at that speed, that's going to be the hardest thing, to actually get the ball in the air. So potentially that tour response does work quite nicely at that lower swing speed at 65 as well. So yeah, pretty good. Then let's move up a little bit in speed then. So we'll go up to our 75 mile an hour swing speed here and see if we can see any difference. Well, straight away we can see in terms of the height, it's just between 60 and 65 feet. And again, the tour response is slightly higher launching. However, when we look at the distance, we can see there's a clear winner there in TP5X. So we are now getting a little bit more carry, a little bit more total distance, and quite similar spin across the board, with the distance spinning the highest, really, about 500 RPM higher on average than all the others. But yeah, I mean, we can see at 145, 146, it's certainly much longer than we're getting with everything else. And, you know, that's very, very good for TP5X. Now, you know, is that player at that swing speed looking for distance? Maybe not. I think you're probably looking more in control. I mean, you probably are going to get half a club more out of TP5X based on the numbers I've got here than you are with say the distance ball, for instance. You know, 129 versus 145 is quite a big jump, isn't it? Yeah, so we are seeing slightly different ball speed there. Look, so we're 10 miles an hour slower in the distance ball now. We've added a little bit of speed there, but the spins are all similar, the heights are all similar. But now we are seeing a huge difference between the cheaper end golf ball and the tour level ball at 75 miles an hour. Right, let's move into our drivers, right? This was quite interesting. So we'll start at, like I say, I tried to do it at 80 miles an hour and just absolutely could not time it properly at that speed. So I've ended up nearer to 85, 86 miles an hour. So when we look at it on here, we can see in terms of carry, we're actually getting a little bit more with the distance ball now at that slower speed. So 182 carry, 218 total. It's actually the longest now. Sorry, these are a little bit out of order. This is messing with my head a little bit because the distance has been at the bottom of the rest of them. So apologies, those of you with OCD. Yeah, sorry about that. They're a bit skewed here. But yeah, the distance ball seems to perform really nicely. You know, we're getting 47 feet height-wise, so it's nice and high. The speed soft, so both of those balls, speed soft and the distance, are now going the highest at that lower swing speed. So we're seeing more distance and a little bit more ball speed as well. We've got the highest ball speed there with the tour balls, but what we're seeing with those is that they're not carrying as far, okay? And if we look at the height, we're 31 feet with tour response and only 35 with TP5X. So at this speed, they're just not launching high enough to carry far enough. So we are seeing quite a big difference. So if you are that player who needs that bit more carry and has got a slower swing speed, then it's pointing you very firmly towards the distance and speed soft golf balls. Right, let's go up in speed. So we're going to go up to 95 miles an hour now. And when we look at those, we can see that if we're looking at height again, to be honest, they're very similar. There's not really that much of a difference there. We're starting to see now, 219 as an average with the top three, and the distance now the shortest. So we've only added about just over 10 miles an hour, and it's gone from being the longest to the shortest now, okay? So we've kind of hit our kind of mark with where that ball is going to stop performing, and I'd suggest it's probably not aimed at someone who is swinging it at 96 miles an hour anyway, so that's probably a bit of a drop off. But you're still seeing in speed soft, you are still seeing that decent performance. The spins, so the lowest spin with the distance now, and again it's kind of getting to that point where, with 215 and 252 is okay, it's just landing and running a long way, which is good, isn't it? But up at 219, just short of 220 with the other three golf balls, and very similar total distances. So there's nothing really to split those three at that sort of speed. So if you are that typical club golfer between sort of, if you get into 90 to 95 miles an hour with a driver, which I'd guess many of you out there will be, there would be no real reason why you would buy TP5 or TP5X versus speed soft on the results that I've got here, to be honest. But certainly you probably don't want to be using that distance ball, because you could be losing a bit of distance. Now, when we compare that to when we saw it with the 7-iron, we weren't seeing that much difference with them. So, if you are that kind of standard club golfer, speed soft, tour response at that kind of 20 to 30, and in tour response maybe up to 40 pounds kind of bracket, depending on what you want to spend on golf balls, we're seeing really good performance here. Now, when we are then talking about wedge performance, you're obviously going to get loads more out of the tour response, so that may sway you into that golf ball. Right, and let's look at driver then at kind of, I suppose, average tour speed that I'm swinging it at here. So it's probably just slightly down on that. I mean, the fact that I've hit about what feels like about 1,000 golf balls in this test. So yeah, we're around sort of 114, 15, 16 miles an hour between the three. And we can certainly see there that we're getting a bit more carry out of the two more expensive golf balls. So TP5X, 292 to 318, 290 to 313 with tour response, 287 to 305. So we're just seeing the spins crept up with speed soft. And in terms of the distance, we're seeing 287, basically very similar, but it's running a bit further because the spin's a little bit lower. We can also see the height's lower on the distance ball, the highest with speed soft. So we're now getting a ball in speed soft at this speed that just kind of balloons a little bit on us. It spins a bit and it gets up there a bit high and doesn't carry as far and stops quite quickly. Whereas what we can see with the others, and to be honest, the distance ball has surprised me here, because the spin's actually the lowest of all of them. So yeah, I mean, it's pretty good. It's just not quite as quick. In fact, it's 6 miles an hour slower than the TP5X. So if you are at this sort of speed, you are going to get more distance and more speed, and just probably more control, I suppose, with TP5X and tour response. But the distance ball still does a job there. It's not too bad at all, really. And when we're talking about 4 yards difference total, that's not a hell of a lot, really, is it? But I think the thing that sets these golf balls apart, and the reason they are as expensive as they are, is obviously the multi-layer technology that we see in these golf balls. We're seeing in the tour response at 3 layers and TP5X obviously at 5, that there are certain components in these golf balls that do different jobs. So when we are looking at wedge performance, those two outshine everything. When we're looking at driver distance, those two are on a par, if not slightly nudging ahead in TP5X's case here. Like I say, I would have expected it to, because it's a golf ball I really like. And to be honest, I really like it because it spins a tiny little bit more as well with the driver, because for me, balls that spin quite low, I tend to kind of lose them a bit left and right sometimes. That extra spin allows me to control it and maybe hit a couple more fairways. And if I'm averaging 318 yards and it's going somewhere near the fairway, I'm a very, very happy man. So yeah, I guess that kind of tells us a bit about what these different golf balls do. Is it a massive difference between one and the other? No, it's not. And, you know, we're talking over double the price for a TP5 or TP5X versus the Distance golf ball, and maybe in some cases more than that, because the Distance ball, we've had it on a bit of a deal this year as well, which nets it down even more. But what we are saying is, if you are that player who needs more control with your chipping and pitching, it's probably going to feel nicer to put with as well, those tour level golf balls, then I would choose those. But if you're just looking for a pretty good run-of-the-mill golf ball that performs quite well, you're not bothered about the spin that you're going to get with chipping and pitching, and in terms of putting, it's going to feel still nice and soft because of that lower compression, then Distance and Speed Soft certainly ticks a lot of those boxes. So yeah, that's been a quite long and drawn out test, and you know, I appreciate that. It's a long video, this, and thank you for sticking with us if you have. I hope you've enjoyed it. I've actually, weirdly enjoyed testing that and seeing how these balls perform. I think it just shows that the technology in golf balls is very good. Like I say, down the line, we are going to test some of the direct-to-consumer ones, the Amazon ones, the Kirkland ones from Costco. We're going to test those and see how they perform against top-level golf balls that you are paying a significant amount more money for. Based on this test, I'd guess it's going to be quite close. But I think if you can get some of that multi-layer technology like we've seen in TP5X and Tour Response here, you're probably going to get better all-round performance for your golf game. Hopefully you've enjoyed that. Please drop some comments in the comment section below. We love to hear from you. Let us know which golf ball you use. It may be a completely different brand. You may use one of these that we've tested here as well. Let us know that. Look forward to seeing you very soon, and keep watching the content here on the Golfshake YouTube channel to help you play more and play better. Right, I'm off for a rest.